It's a Big Lots warehouse. It looks like a peddler's mall, Mike. It's not that.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, we are giving you a review of New Mutants. Surprise.
Oh my gosh, a review out of nowhere, out of the woodwork in a pandemic.
It's a Christmas miracle, and it's still November. So, shake out your snow, get your tree up. Let's talk about New Mutants later. Marvel is gearing up for the Fantastic Four, and I'm going to tell you how.
Oh, yes. I love just speculating about the future of the MCU. Something we don't get to do quite that often anymore.
I know. Give Mike a soapbox, and he is gone. We'll let him talk. The Lego Star Wars Holiday Special will be the most meta thing you ever watch, and more.
And more. Wow, Chris, it's been a week, right? Everyone's been waiting, and it's finally here. Your new episode of Superhero Slate.
Exactly.
So you can stop refreshing your phones. I know CNN doesn't usually cover our show, but I think they put us up on the Chiron. New episode of Superhero Slate, finally reviewing a movie for the first time in 7 months. Yeah. So the wait is over, America. Yeah. You can finally have a sigh of relief.
Exactly.
We reviewed New Mutants.
well, I think also on top of that, due to Mike's, Mike upgraded his equipment last week, so now I had to upgrade my equipment this week. And now I have a boom stand and the same microphone. Me and Mike are on the same microphone for the first time, I think, since like the first month we started recording the show.
Oh, yeah, I know. This is crazy, right? Yeah. Hopefully we're beaming into your ears with the luscious sounds of our voices.
I gotta keep watching the levels because I'm like, am I too hot?
You probably have like a faulty pin in your port or something, and you're just like sounding like a craggly mess right now. And we don't even know it.
Both of these episodes complete trash. Throw them out. We'll just come back next week at that point.
This is just slightly audio related, but I was watching a little bit of last night's SNL before we got on the show, and they did a sketch where Dave Chappelle played the Allstate insurance kind of mascot, which is just this guy with a really deep voice. And at first I thought he was just really good at doing a deep voice, but then I realized they were modulating his voice live on the air. So that was really, really funny, because if he hit the pitch or the tone a little differently, you could kind of hear like the computer like weird algorithm hitting his voice. And then he was standing right next to Pete Davidson, who was playing Count Chocula, and I don't think they were intending to modulate his voice, but since he was right next to Dave Chappelle, I think sometimes Dave's mic was picking up Pete Davidson's voice. So it was a really crazy sketch, but the crazy stuff you can do with microphones, Chris. We should start modulating our voices to be deeper and smoother.
I don't know. They're just gonna get us as we are, raw, unadulterated, unfiltered podcasting news every week.
Yeah, your microphone's even like hanging from an arm now. It's not even sitting on a desk.
Yeah. My keyboard doesn't sound nearly as loud, does it?
Yeah, people don't have to spit their coffee out or get startled whenever you have hit the space bar.
Yeah, I know. I listen to a podcast, and every time they say the word Defenders, they played the Defenders of the Earth theme song at like full blast, and I'm like, I feel like we could do that, but you know why? I'm not doing it the same reason we're not modulating our voices, Mike, because it's extra work, and I'm putting more money into this show than it's paying out to me, so I'm just going to let it roll. Let it roll. Into the quarantine stream. Let's kick this thing off, because I was going to do the snack section first, because our quarantine stream could go into our news, our first bit of news, but I want to split it up a little bit. So what have you been watching this week?
Yeah, I totally forgot I caught this movie that I haven't seen in a while until I started talking about the concept of waiting for things last week. We watched the movie Waiting, and I just added it into the quarantine stream, and I thought it might have seemed passive aggressive that I was typing in our live show notes waiting ... so I had to type the movie after it, so you didn't think I was being too rude to you.
No more than usual, but go on.
But yeah, it had been a while since I've seen Waiting. I mean, it's an iconic movie of our youth for sure, especially if you've ever worked in food service. So I have seen it plenty of times, but this is the first time I think I'd really ever seen it. I would say as a fully fledged adult, as much as I could think I could qualify myself as an adult.
Really? Go on.
So I started looking at it through maybe a slightly more sophisticated lens, and I think the movie just honestly even gets even better. I love the way the kind of our main characters grow in their own little way throughout the movie, the way they set up some shots, the mirror with other shots earlier in the movie, and just on top of all like just the kind of the gross out immature humor. It's just still a really good movie. The only thing that really doesn't hold up is there's maybe some gay jokes that didn't age too well, but they're coming mostly out of the mouths of degenerates that work at a restaurant. So even there, it kind of makes sense, but I think they would probably leave that out of a movie now, even if the character was pretty degenerate. But yeah, the movie still holds up. I was surprised when I looked up the director. It was the same person that wrote the movie, so you can tell this was really a project at heart for them. And if you watch the credits at the very, very end, there's a long section of the crawl that is just him giving thanks to different people and different scenarios in his life. Usually people will put like one line, oh, thanks to mom and dad and my wife, but he had like this whole block of text of people that he wanted to thank. So you can tell this was really a movie that was really personal to him. And I was surprised to see that he was actually in charge of making the sequel called Still Waiting. I've never seen the sequel at all.
That sounds like a Son of the Mask scenario going on here.
Yeah. I was kind of assuming this guy would go on to bigger and better things. I'm sure he's had a career, good enough to pay the bill. So it's not like I feel bad for him in any way. But the only other thing he's really done is that movie Tag that has Jeremy Renner and some of those other famous kind of comedy stars in it. I don't remember who else was in the movie besides Jeremy Renner. I think Ed Helms is in it. Ed Helms and Hannibal Buress. I think he's in it as well. Anyway, I watched that movie and it was just kind of so-so. So I was kind of expecting maybe he would go on to do something, but I don't know. He's still got project in the works. So anyway, Waiting still holds up. If you haven't seen it, oh man, it's quintessential to Chris's and I's kind of coming of age. Like it came out at the right time.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about a movie adjacent to that, Grandma's Boy yesterday. Did you ever watch that one?
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with video games, as we're like on the cusp of a video game console launch, I thought back to that yesterday, and I kind of grouped those together in that like mid 2000s, like you're eating your cheddar and sour cream Ruffle Lays, Mike, and drinking your Mountain Dews and eating your pizzas and White Castles with your buddies on a Saturday night because you got nothing to do. So I totally agree.
But that was Waiting. That was the one movie that I was watching in the Corn Stream this week. And this is more, I guess, maybe a PSA because I don't have cable, so I wasn't able to watch Rick and Morty Season 4 when the rest of the world got to watch it. But it is now on Hulu, and then you told me it is also on HBO Max, which makes a lot more sense.
Yes.
Because that's kind of the corporate umbrella streaming service that owns Rick and Morty. But it's also over on Hulu, so if you only have Hulu, you can start watching it over there.
Yeah, because I watched it live except for the last episode, and then I was like, okay, let's watch it on. I missed this last one. Let's watch it on Hulu. Nothing. Finally, a year later, it comes out because this season's been out for a year, if you believe that or not. So, but yeah, that's good to know. I can go check out that last episode for it.
Yeah, I'm only a couple episodes in. I mean, the season's not like particularly long, so I'll probably finish it up here shortly. But yeah, more classic Rick and Morty adventures. I'm curious what the long game is going to be, right? They had a unique kind of contract negotiation where it didn't seem like they were necessarily going for more money per episode, just more of the longevity of the life of the show, because they locked down like 7 seasons in those negotiations. So we got a lot more Rick and Morty coming up. So I'm curious how they're gonna not stretch it, but what the path is here for the show. But I'm sure there'll be a lot more ridiculous violence and fart jokes.
Okay, well, I know you've only watched a couple, but we've talked about this before, where there's a train of plot points, right? You talked about a show like that. there's an episode that touches on that later, and I want you to text me when you watch that. So please do.
Gotcha. The big standout so far was there's an episode where there's a dragon that's hoarding like a bunch of valuables and gold, and Rick holds up a old classic carton of Ecto Cooler, and I was like, hey, that joke was for us particularly.
Yeah.
They worked Ecto Cooler into this episode, so I appreciated that.
They knew you were watching it.
Yeah, but Rick and Morty season 4 finally up there and streaming if you've been patiently waiting like I have. And this one is streaming related, but not even necessarily content that you would watch. If you're out there and you have a Roku like I do, they like to put themes on your homepage whenever, they're cross-promoting something, or if it's like a holiday, like, they'll put like spooky Halloween stuff up in the background for Halloween. But they must have some sort of partnership with Disney Plus right now, because I actually have a really cool Mandalorian background that was added to my Roku, I think just right after the election wrapped up. And it's really cool because you have like this really cool kind of like, desert planet background. And then I have like this little Mandalorian ad on the right-hand side. So, you probably already see it if you have a Roku, but I think it looks pretty cool. And hopefully I can, even after the partnership is over for the Roku homepage, I want to be able to, hopefully I can go back and turn it back on because it looks pretty cool. So
yeah.
I don't know why I needed to mention that, but I just want to say it looks pretty cool.
You must have. I think also there's a couple. There's a Fortnite and an Xbox Disney Plus promotion. I think you can get 2 months with them if you purchase something through either one of those. I think coming up. So if you've not jumped on Disney Plus, by God, you are missing out on a lot of good content, and you're going to need it to stay up to date with the MCU going forward. So.
Yeah, and I can't believe I forgot this. I always talk about these zoo shows that the wife and I are watching on Disney Plus. Disney Plus has its, I believe it's its own. I mean, it's marketed as National Geographic, but I think it's technically a Disney Plus original, where it's the Wild Animal Kingdom at Disney World. So it's set up like all of the other kind of zoo reality shows. The Columbus Zoo or the Tampa Zoo or the Australian Zoo, where it's just a bunch of cameras following around employees at the zoo. But they're doing one for the one at Disney World, which is pretty cool because not only are they covering the animals that live there, but every once in a while they'll do a segment on the Imagineering, which is cool. Like they did this whole segment on this fake tree that they made just so they could get like these warm kind of Kelvin lights, shooting down at the elephant so they could kind of mimic the sunset for them. So I was like, ooh, that's the X factor that this show has that those other kind of zoo shows don't have, is they can bring in the Imagineering. If you've watched any of the Imagineering documentaries on Disney Plus, there's that one guy that has the really weird dangling earring. He has like a huge gauge in his ear, and he has like a mass ball of earrings and just dangles off his face. Very unique looking person, but he was in the episode where they talked about the tree. Yeah. So you can go check that out on Disney Plus.
Yeah, the tree. It's definitely a staple of the animal kingdom down there in Florida. I'm going to go ahead and toss in my 2 cents here. I got my new colored lights in last week, Mike. We talked about those. And after we got off recording, I was like looking for something like, what movie has tons of color that I can play with? And I remembered the intro to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 has tons of color.
Little dancing baby Groot.
Yes.
Oh, it was perfect. You sent me the video, and I was like, oh, he made the right choice.
Yes. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to watch this intro here. Once they return the Harbulary batteries, right? I'm going to turn this over. And I ended up watching the whole damn movie. So I was like, this movie is so fun. I know people like the first one more than the second. I really, really dig the second one. I think the music's a better choice, in my opinion, for a lot of it. And it was fun to dive back in, and hard to believe it's been, 3.5 years since we were in the Guardians universe. And who knows how much longer till we get to the third section of that movie. So knock on wood, we'll get back to that. I've also taken to calling my youngest cat Twig, because that's what they call a Groot in that. So I'm like, she's not Twig. So I'm going to jump into a little bit of a snack section, Mike. I was able to find some stuff here this week, and I shared some photos with you, and you seem to be jump on board with this. This first one I think we both have had at this point is gingerbread Oreos out in the wild.
Yes, they finally knocked a new flavor out of the park. I feel like most of the time with these new fancy limited edition Oreos, they never really quite match what the packages say they are, right? It's just like you can tell me it's a s'mores Oreo, but when I bite into it, it does not feel like I'm experiencing a s'more, right? You know, or like birthday cake or whatever. You know, they're just different variations of like the same cookie. But this is the first time I think I've had like a exclusive new Oreo that transported me to a different flavor. And I would dare say these are just solid, just gingerbread cookies in general. Not even just a good Oreo. Like if you like gingerbread, if you like those holiday flavors, like I hope these come back every year. These are so good.
I agree. This is a 10 out of 10. You get them, you're like, okay, is this like a gingerbread filling? Like, you know, like a little bit of spice sizzled on it? No, that cookie is hard. That cookie is a gingerbread cookie. The icing I feel is a little different too. It feels a little richer. When you eat it, and it could just be me with the gingerbread, but I'm like, it's a gingerbread cookie with a white icing, and they kill it. This is, I don't celebrate Christmas before Thanksgiving, Mike, but this had me ready to go, and that's saying a lot out of a cookie. So not only did we find Oreos 2 aisles over, I came across the first seasonal M&Ms, the sugar cookie M&Ms. Sugar cookie.
I've seen these in the snack feed, so I'm glad you finally found them.
Yes, so I found them. I walked in. They were. I mean, I didn't expect them really. They are a white chocolate M&M with a crispy cookie middle, and they are addicting, little sons of bitches. They're very, very. I don't think they nail sugar cookie exactly because there's too much white chocolate in this candy shell of an M&M. Doesn't work with it, but they are very, very sugary sweets that I think are some of the sweeter M&Ms. That reach up there, and they've got that nice crunchy middle with that cookie, a nice crisp, which I think is fantastic. So
yeah, holiday cookies and other cookies in general sometimes confound me, like the sugar cookie variety, if you will, because a sugar cookie is really just almost kind of like a blank, unadorned cookie, right? Because I got this snack. Lindor Truffle has a seasonal one called the Snickerdoodle Truffle, and I really like the white chocolate Lindor Truffle. So any sort of variation on those, I'm all for. But I believe a Snickerdoodle is just a sugar cookie with some cinnamon on it. I think is that really the only difference?
No, it's much more than that.
You say it as if you're in this high position of authority. Yes, but I believe you.
Yes. So there's my wife makes them, and I will tell you that it's not. There's this. And some may be wrong. Maybe the way she makes them, but it's not just a sugar cookie with cinnamon on it. Like there's.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the sugar or like the oil or the butter or something like that. She makes them. They're way different than the sugar cookies. Like the sugar cookies we have are a little more flat and crisp. These are more raised and puffy, if you will.
Gotcha. Either way, it sounds like it's snacking season, and that's one of the great things about holidays is they always bring out some sort of new weird variation of something, and you can trust us over here at Superhero Slate that when we're not talking about superheroes, we're talking about sugary or cheesy things that we like to eat.
I just looked up. It's cream of tartar is in Snickerdoodles.
All right, whatever the hell that is.
I'm not the baking person. I'm the eating person. I will test to make sure they taste good. So we got that. But yeah, it's the season for snacking, and we'll probably have more of these as we go. But it's also the season for reviews for movies that have long been eluding us, Mike. Long time coming. 3 years since production ended, and almost 2.5 or less since it was originally supposed to come out. But we finally got around to watching New Mutants this weekend, and we were able to record a whole review episode for everyone to listen to.
Yeah, that's right. Not some sort of weird edited cut out from our normal news episodes. This is a fully fledged separate episode of Superhero Slate where we sat down and just talked about this movie, the ins and outs, the spoilers, the implications of where it could have gone if it didn't get axed. There's not many characters in the movie, so I believe we talked about them all pretty from head to toe. So I like we said in the review, the official digital release doesn't come out until next week. but you've had other avenues to catch the movie if you're lucky enough to live in an area where you won't die if you go to the movie theater. You could have seen it there. I'm sure there's other avenues which you can watch a movie because it's 2020, and there's many ways that you. I wouldn't be surprised if you just typed in stream New Mutants now free. You could probably find some shady website with subtitles that would just let you start watching it right now.
Yeah, exactly. So there are ways to watch it, and if not, it'll come out soon. We kind of dove into it full spoilers in the episode, but we're not going to do that here. We're going to give you our initial thoughts. Do you want to do the way we did it on the episode, Mike? Same order? Same? Yeah. All right, well, same
yeah.
thing. So I went into this after the bad taste of Dark Phoenix in my mouth from the X-Men movies. Very bad, very low expectations. This movie has been delayed forever, to no fault of its own, just how the timing of Dark Phoenix and also a merger happened, and then a pandemic at the same time. This has been a tragic tale for this film, how it got here. But at the end of the day, I found the characters and the acting really, really well done. I had a lukewarm time, if I say this, with that. The only drawback I had is the plot is kind of predictable and you kind of see where it's going. But there were still some surprises, some twists and turns, and some remnants of what could have been a horror film in here that really put it above a notch above just, average stuff. So I think, again, lukewarm reception to it. Wish it would have been a little better, but at the same time, this could have been a much worse film at the end of the day. So I'd recommend it on streaming if you get a chance. Maybe you don't need to run out and buy it. Maybe get a Black Friday deal on it if you want to collect the whole set. But I mean, there's no reason to rush out and see it. But I do recommend if you get a chance to catch it on streaming. Mike?
I think I would recommend pretty much all of those sentiments. We seem to be pretty agreeable on this film with our opinions. But yeah, mostly when I watch this movie, I just think of what could have been, where it was going. They never knew that it was going to be the last X-Men Fox movie when they were making it. So just kind of from more of an intellectual level, it's interesting to watch, just to see, this is really the last Fox X-Men movie, and they just had no idea. There was definitely stuff that they could have built off on here for a sequel. It could have been better. It could have been a lot worse. So what we're left with is just kind of something that, you're probably not going to remember that much after, who knows, a couple of hours or maybe even a couple of days. And since the X-Men are now RIP from the Fox universe, it's up to Feige and the MCU to reboot them. And I'm sure once that new X-Men movie comes out, whenever it gets released, this will just be a long in the rear view mirror. So if you want to go check out some interesting accent choices, but maybe see some cool pops of some special effects, go check out New Mutants. I don't think it's going to be a total waste of time. I feel like if you're really into this superhero stuff, like we are, and listening to this show, I feel like you got to kind of put this up there, and you got to watch it just almost for historical context. But I'd recommend New Mutants. Eventually it'll be streaming for free, and I think it'd be a good choice to watch it there.
Yeah, exactly. And guess what? New content, new movies. When do we get that this year? Never.
Yeah, so. Beggars can't be choosers. Mandalorian only takes up 40 to 50 minutes of your week, right? There's still a lot more time left to fill. Exactly.
So the New Mutants, get a chance to watch it, feel free, but like we're saying, you don't need to buy it and rush out immediately. Keep yourself safe and watch it when you can. At that note. Let's jump into some Black Widow news. Scarlett Johansson's been out doing some rounds. Apparently, I don't know if this was like delayed press or something they're trying to just make people know this movie still exists before it comes out next May. But she says that she confirms that we'll learn what happened in Budapest in this movie. And if you remember that line from Avengers where Hawkeye's like, "You and I remember Budapest very differently." So I believe this could indicate a Hawkeye cameo in this movie that a lot of people have kind of speculated on.
Yeah, I mean, for most of the MCU movies, I pretty much trust the creative intent for all of them, so I'm not really worried in any way. Yeah. But I hope they don't build an entire narrative off of this one-off line that Joss Whedon wrote in the Avengers, right? Oh. I kind of just saw it more as just like a funny character moment where we could just learn kind of how these two people possibly bonded in the past, and then we move on and we go back to them kicking some butt on the helicarrier, right? So if this indeed is part of the movie, I hope it's just kind of maybe tongue in cheek. We just get to learn a little bit more and then we move on with the plot, which probably what will happen. But yeah, I think everyone's really wondering if we're going to get a little Hawkeye in kind of a prequel, Scarlett Johansson Black Widow movie.
Yeah, and we also know from the Avengers that Hawkeye was the person who brought Natasha into the fold because he was sent to kill her. So that could be the end of the movie. Could be maybe the first post credits scene where they usually tie something into its own movie, not the next movie. So it could be something. I expect it to be very, very little. But he will be there. It'll probably be like some archival footage they show somewhere. Not even the full scene. We're gonna be watching through CCTV somewhere. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is interesting because we don't know where this takes place in the timeline for Black Widow, and where all these characters exist. All we know is she's not coming back. So that's about all we got right there. And Hawkeye's getting his own show, so no Budapest there. Fantastic Four is on. We're on the cusp of Fantastic Four, Mike. We know it's coming into the MCU, just like the Mutants. There's a new production entity that was created and is owned by Marvel and Disney, and it's called Solve Everything Productions LLC. And I saw this title, and I knew exactly which comic book series it was referencing, and that is Fantastic Four. And this is Jonathan Hickman. He wrote a run from 2008 to I believe 2011 about the Fantastic Four, and it was one of Reed Richards' mantras was like, what I'm going to do is solve everything. Like I'm going to find solutions for everything in the world. And we know that gets him into more trouble usually than helps at the end of the day. So I believe this is a solid indication that maybe they're starting to do pre-production, pay for some scripts, pay for some people working very, very pre-production on this because they usually create these LLCs for financing purposes. So, when do you think we're going to see him at this point?
Yeah, it's on the horizon. I think the two big properties that Marvel has now back is Fantastic Four and X-Men. And I think we just kind of all assumed that we were probably going to see Fantastic Four before Mutants, and I think this kind of gives us a little bit of a confirmation because, like you said, if they're making these little companies for tax and like money laundering purposes, I don't know what the hell they're doing with them, but it seems like we would have seen something hinting towards the X-Men beforehand. So I think it makes sense to introduce the Fantastic Four first. They have they might have more infamous stink on them than the X-Men actually do, but they haven't been around as long and tenured as long as the X-Men have. So this seems like the most logical thing to spin back up first, and then we'll get to the Mutants kind of after we've established the Fantastic Four.
Well, I would disagree. Fantastic Four had that 1994 movie that they never released that they promoted. So I think they've got a little more clout. I think what's interesting is they're both teams of superheroes, right? They're not individual superheroes. And I think there's less baggage with Fantastic Four, kind of like what you mentioned. Like, the last one was the Josh Trank one. Do you remember that one?
Only in my nightmares, Chris.
Yeah. The melted bag looking Doctor Doom. I think anything above that's fine. So I think they'll be fine. So I think there's a interesting thing here, and it's coming that way. So we'll talk more about production companies here in a little bit. But I think this is a good indication they're starting to possibly, like I said, hire people to start working on, like, hey, draft us some ideas. What do you think? Where does this fit in the world? Here's our story. Because in quarantine, what do you have a lot of time to do? Brainstorm ideas, Mike. So hopefully we'll see.
I kept almost Freudian slipping during this entire segment where I kept wanting to say Fantastic Beasts instead of Fantastic Four. So
no, that's later.
We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it might not be a problem in the future.
yeah, definitely not. In terms of productions, WandaVision filming is reportedly wrapped on this. Apparently, they were doing some last minute stuff. I don't know if this was a group A or B filming, but I really highly believe we're gonna get it next month. I think Mandalorian's right now it's killing it every Friday. Right, I gotta remember not to check the internet every Friday morning until I get to watch it. So I'm excited for that. I think this week's episode had a character from Kim's Convenience in it, right?
Oh yeah, that was exciting to see. Yeah, the character by the name of Appa with this also kind of ties into Simu Liu.
Yeah,
who's going to Apparently what my wife told me was that he is a die-hard Star Wars fan and has always wanted to be a part of the franchise. So I'm guessing he probably just had a standing order with his agent. Whenever anything Star Wars pops up, let me know. So it was really cool to see him in an X-Wing and flying around. So that was a fun cameo.
Yeah, really fun episode. So yeah, well, hopefully WandaVision takes its place on Fridays. We don't know what the release schedule is, but I don't know why they wouldn't do Fridays, right? Like that seems
that seems to be the hot day.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to compete against Great British Bake Off, but I think that's wrapping up pretty soon, so we should be
I think episode 8 is next week, so there's only 3 more weeks of that. That'll be wrapped up before it sounds like the holidays, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's fun to watch. Keeps me going. We're going to talk about Loki here. So we talked about this. I had to go pull it up here. In February, we reported Loki was getting a sequel. So I just want to put this out there because they made Limbo Productions 1 LLC. That usually means that the 1 indicates a first chapter of multiple productions. This is how they keep all their financing in order for these shows. So there have been rumors about it. So there is strong reports that Loki's getting multiple seasons, or at least a second season, and he starts filming in January of 2022 with this. So I think they're still filming theirs right now. Owen Wilson's involved. The guy who it was the villain in Logan, because we've talked about Logan enough today. And I believe he's in the most recent Star Wars. He's the guy who shot General Hux. That guy, Richard Grant, maybe. In there. So I know they're working on it. I want to see where they go with Loki. How do they get him out of the in-game scenario with the time stone and time travel? So
yeah, I mean, I know the next closest thing that we have to these Marvel shows right now is probably Mandalorian, but Mandalorian kind of is carving out its own unique area of Star Wars. They are using really high budgets and stuff like that, but so far nothing has. They haven't really directly brought in any characters.
That's a lie.
You
watched the first episode this season.
Wait, what? Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep.
More of an Easter egg, if you will. But what I'm trying to get at here is these Marvel shows, I think, will be the first hyper premium is kind of the word I'm trying to get going here. Streaming show, right? These are directly related to a very high budget, box office breaking, shattering cinematic universe that they're going to be putting on the smaller screen, and they're carrying a lot of these characters over, and not just characters, actors, and their contracts. So I just keep thinking how exciting it's going to be to kind of see this high level talent. I'm not saying Pedro Pascal is not high level talent, but I'm excited to see Tom Hiddleston kind of on the small screen bringing this very, very big character that would walk out on the stage at Comic-Con and just everybody would flip out onto the little screen. So I think what I'm trying to say is, even though we've had the Mandalorian out there kind of breaking the cherry, if you will, but these Marvel shows will be very unique. I think once we finally get around to watching WandaVision and Loki, we'll be like, whoa, this is what really hyper premium Disney content is on Disney Plus.
This is what they meant when they said it's all connected. I mean, they said it forever, but nothing really was connected until now. So
yeah, not like I said, not trying to take anything away from the Mandalorian. And it's not like they need my help anyway. They got a little baby Yoda to basically do all the heavy lifting, but it's just kind of I feel like there's a little bit more secret sauce in in this Marvel stuff.
I don't know. Well, I want to see how season 2 of Mandalorian plays out with all these supposed what's her name, Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and stuff like that. So knock on wood, we'll see how that's. But yeah, Loki, I think he's got the most mystery to his show, because if he's dealing with time and space, literally anything can happen. Nothing's off the table, right? So
yeah, are they gonna bring? Yeah, it makes you wonder. Are they gonna bring Chris Hemsworth into his show at all? I mean, is he ever gonna talk to his brother again? It makes you wonder, because if he does that cheapen his death at all? We kind of all thought maybe that would be the last time he would ever talk to his brother. And I know technically it wouldn't be the same Thor that he's talking to; it'd be a different version of Thor from a different timeline. But it's just kind of is he ever gonna talk to his brother again? I don't know.
I mean, they kind of did that with Endgame with Thor and his mom coming back.
Yeah.
So, but I think here, the opportunity here is, if we know they've cast the actor from Lovecraft Country as Kang. If he's gonna do anything with time travel, maybe this is Loki season 2. They've already planned it out. And we don't know it yet. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Sadly, they won't give us any news at CinemaCon this spring, because they've pushed it back to the summer. At least
CinemaCon, the sleeper convention, the one that we always forget about until they get some sort of actually big breaking news that we get to talk about on the show.
I usually think Spider-Man is there because Sony owns them and they're big CinemaCon people. So like literally, again, the worst name for a convention ever is CinemaCon. Let's just put that out there because that's why we forget about it, because it doesn't have anything fun. But like, I always enjoy their stuff. They give us trailers and toy looks and all this other stuff for movies that we don't normally get to see. Even just posters, first looks. So I'm sad it's delayed this summer, but I mean, what else are we going to see in the meantime? Nothing's really in production that we know of.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, just wait, I guess. That's what we're going to have to do. We'll do that. In the meantime, we can play some Spider-Man Miles Morales, Mike. Okay.
Heck yeah.
I'm not telling you what they are, but the reviews are online for this game. They've been out early.
Yeah.
They hit with like launch PlayStation 5s, I believe. When does that game come out? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, speaking of this game, I mean, I got to imagine since it's built off pretty much the same engine as the previous Spider-Man game was, probably the worst offense it could probably do is be underwhelming. Maybe it doesn't quite reach the same heights, but I mean, my favorite part about the previous Spider-Man game was just swinging around and doing fun acrobatic stuff. And from the trailers that I've seen, it looks like they've kept all of that stuff and added on to it more. So I feel like I know exactly what I'm buying, and I'm looking forward to buying it.
Yeah, it's November 12th. Apparently, it's in like 4 days. So that's sneaking up on me. So what I'm gonna ask you this question, Mike, because I've been asking myself out loud all weekend, and my wife thinks I'm crazy. If I buy the PlayStation 5 version of this game, the PlayStation 5 Ultimate Edition, it comes with the PlayStation 5 version of Miles, the PlayStation 5 remaster of the first Spider-Man with his new face, and the PS4 version of Miles.
Okay.
I've future-proofed myself if I ever get a PlayStation 5, and I get it for the PlayStation 4 to play now.
This is very true.
For $20 difference.
I mean, I feel like if you're a future-proofing type of person, when I think about you, Chris, it's hard for me to imagine you not having a PS5 at some point in your life. And you're a person that often likes to go back and re-enjoy things. So even if it's like 2 or 3 years until you own a PS5, I feel like you could get a little bit of enjoyment out of it.
Okay. Well, I might do that then, because I was like, this is like, you can't get this remastered Spider-Man game any other way unless you get this Ultimate Edition of Miles. So I'm like, well, I could play it this week, and start with Miles this week, and then up and down
Your wife is very smart. It's a good thing that you married somebody that kind of tempers your ability to just wanting things that maybe you don't really need, but then I'm over here enabling you, so who knows?
Well, it's either way. She's like, well, whatever you want. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true.
That's not the answer I wanted.
Yeah, that's not going to help me. So I think I'm going to get them all. So if anyone's getting a PlayStation 5, do know that you get a PlayStation 4 version, and if you get the Ultimate Edition, you get the remastered, which is really cool. That
have you been watching those deep dives of people going into the controller because it's finally the controller for the PS5 is finally getting shipped?
Not the deep dive. I actually have a YouTube tab open right now with all the Digital Foundry reviews of the PlayStation 5 and their controller and all that other stuff. As an Xbox person, that's where I've cut my teeth. That's where all my money's spent. I've been looking at all those reviews and constantly refreshing my order status to see where I am, because some people have already gotten theirs. They actually delivered them early, which I'm like, that is wild. How did you do that?
Yeah.
So
seems like people are getting really hyped with these adaptive triggers on the PS5 controller. I know adaptive triggers aren't exactly the newest technology, but now it's going to be mainstream within this controller, and people are really hoping that developers start to incorporate it, because it sounds like there's some really cool gameplay ideas of just like, it sounds like they can put a lot of pressure behind that trigger to really stop you. It seems like they can technically turn on it to where you can't even move the trigger at all. It's like that solid. So
I imagine a lot
really
of
cool.
broken controllers because people like son of a and throwing them. But
yeah, well, I think the coolest idea is if you have a character who obviously performs an action with one of these triggers, and let's say their stamina gets really, really low or gets down to almost depleted, it's going to make the trigger so much harder to pull. I mean, obviously, like the human finger could probably overcome it, but I mean, like, wouldn't it be cool if your character went down to 0 stamina and you literally couldn't hit the trigger at all? I think that's just really cool little game design. So
as long as my focus is still in the game and not the controller, I agree with you.
Agree.
Like, if you're like, is my controller breaking or is it supposed to do this? Then I'm gonna be like, okay, that's a little concerned. But
I would imagine maybe the Xbox controller has also done this, but they've also said the haptics have been updated. So like, I guess the haptics have been very kind of binary in older controllers, like, oh, turn the little rumble pack on or not, or maybe put a little less power into it. But I guess now they're comparing it more to kind of like how your smartphone or your trackpad can feel like it makes your brain think, oh, I actually clicked something when really you didn't push anything down at all. So I guess even the vibrations just in any controller will get a lot better. So yeah, it's cool. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're in an exciting time for technology and video games. So Miles, are you going to play it this week, or you think you're going to hold off?
I think I will. I think I'll put it into my download queue and get it ready to go.
Yeah, it's a $50 game, so that's always a nice thing to do. So
bonus.
Yep. Speaking of bonuses, things that will come out, I believe within less than 2 weeks, is the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special, Mike. And when I told you this last week, I believe, or last week or 2 weeks ago, you were very, very skeptical. I think.
Actually, maybe if we were talking within a group chat, but I think on the show last week we talked about the movie poster, and I actually thought it was pretty cheeky and pretty funny because they showed that disembodied like Lego hand and it was wrapped in a present. So once you showed me that poster on the show, I've been optimistic.
Okay. Well, I think the only thing that solidified that is the trailer for this. Really, because I was like, this could be really weird. This could be dumb, time travel, going back to this. But they are literally taking every Star Wars reference and meme at face value and putting them into this thing. So, they're taking like Darth Vader to like Tatooine from the first time. They're putting Rey across all these battles. They're pod racing, Mike. Everything that you think of. And I don't know how long this special is. But I'm having a good time just watching the trailer here.
Yeah, they even put Baby Yoda in it. The entire kitchen sink of Star Wars is in this. I kind of had two takeaways from it. One of it was just like, oh, this will just be fun. Like whether or not this is really knocks it out of the park, the humor wise, like the Lego movies have done it. Like I'm not really expecting Phil Lord and Chris Miller kind of level of writing in this, but from what I've seen in the trailer, like, oh yeah, this looks like it's pretty fun. But also, I'm not surprised. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if this is maybe in some lost canon Star Wars book, but Star Wars never done time travel before, which I just find kind of interesting since all of the big franchises right now are kind of talking about it or dabbling with it or have already done it. So it does make me wonder, will we ever get like a mainline Star Wars movie where there's a little bit of time travel? It almost seems within the realm of like, what if like a super high force level user can like travel back in time, like 20 minutes or something like that, right?
So they've been dabbling with that in the newest Darth Vader comic books.
Okay.
Okay.
I knew it was going to be a book. It was going to be on paper somewhere. Yeah, it wasn't going to be onto the screen.
Well, what's cool is since this is technically in canon books, they could bring it into the movies at some point.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is like what's the whole point of a Sith, right? They want to live forever. Like that's their goal. Mm-hmm. So what would help you live forever than using time travel and points through time to do this? So I think the Sith lures Darth Vader into like, hey, we can help you bring back Padme from a point in time. And he like tries to hijack Darth Vader's body or something like that. It's just wild. So yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think there's a way to do it with the Force, but like it shouldn't be done everything because like then like, well, what if you redo all of the sequel trilogies or prequels? I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like I want it to be very set in stone what you can and can't do.
Yeah, I have a feeling the time travel in this Lego holiday special will be much more zany, but it does kind of give you that, what is it, a Christmas Carol vibe where Ebenezer kind of bounces around time to learn a lesson. It's given off those vibes.
Yeah, because Palpatine's with them and everything too. There's some bad jokes in here that people will associate with me the whole way through. This is classic Lego fun. If you've not seen the Lego Marvel shorts on Disney Plus, go watch those. Those are really fun too. So I think this is gonna be a great holiday special compared to the last one they gave us from Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I'm down with this. You remember the movie Free Guy coming out with Ryan Reynolds? I know we talked about him at the top of the show, so with Waiting. But
yeah, they had a trailer come out somewhat recently.
It was like a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, I don't know where I saw it. I must have just like came across it on YouTube. But yeah, they intentionally they did not put the date on the end of that one.
So they removed it from its December 11th release date entirely now. So
shocked Pikachu face. This is the appropriate time to use that meme.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a little steamed broccoli moment. People are not using that meme correctly. It's not just for whenever you're shocked. It's when you're not shocked. You're specifically not shocked is when you use the shocked Pikachu face. I need people to understand that because the meme has gone mainstream now, so people have lost all meaning of it. This is the appropriate time to use it. I'm not surprised at all that Free Guy has moved out of December.
Exactly. And Ryan Reynolds voiced Pikachu, so this works out.
Hey.
The other thing is also, we didn't touch the top, so this is tangential to the show, but sorry to announce, Alex Trebek has passed away this weekend at 80 years old.
Man, yeah.
But he did film a cameo for this movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh.
And will be in this, and Ryan Reynolds mentioned it today, and he will be in this movie, in this cameo, when it finally releases. So I thought that was kind of,
nice.
that was kind of fun little fact about it. Would have been fun. But I think this is also leading the way for every movie in December to be delayed. That's not coming to streaming. So Wonder Woman, I think, is going to be out of that Christmas Day window sooner than later. I didn't know it was the middle of November this week, Mike. I'm going to be honest, so I'm not the best audience for this.
Yeah, and I was telling you, the daylight savings times happened a week ago, and I honestly felt like it happened like 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, and when these movies get delayed, it's not like they're going to get pushed forward. They're not going to put this movie out in January. They're past the point of return for 2020 because December is usually a highly profitable month for films. So it seems like if Wonder Woman's going to be out of December, they're going to push everything back to the summer again. I don't think we're going to be really seeing anything big until maybe as soon as March, but I think it's June and July is when we're going to see hopefully movies return, when hopefully a vaccine as well.
Yeah, something. We need something. I want to go. As much as we bitch about going to the movies, Mike, we're very particular. I still want to go back. So
yeah.
I mean, I'll take the jalapeno smell. Okay, I'll do it just to watch something in there. So, knock on wood. The Peacemaker spin-off show James Gunn wrote while he was in quarantine is apparently starting production very soon. James Gunn said he was in Canadian quarantine for Peacemaker, and the rumor thing is it'll be in production between January and June of this coming year. So,
I mean, it sounds like he's got. I mean, I don't know exactly when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is starting to spin up, but I would imagine all of that is probably pre-production, like concept art, just kind of Zoom meetings every once in a while. But it sounds like this is something James Gunn can tackle in his just in the first quarter of the year.
And he's already had the Guardians 3 script done for a while, right? I mean, short of something changing in that, he'd be adjusting it. I think he's got it approved, so. Really, he's just doing this until the Suicide Squad's out, and I think that's when he's free to go back to Guardians. So
he's killing time like the rest of us, but in a very different way. Whereas for a quarter of a year, I'm sitting around looking for something to stream. He's out there making the stuff for me to stream.
Yeah, using John Cena to the best of his abilities.
Oh, John Cena.
There were speculations earlier this week that the Justice League Snyder Cut movie was completely canceled, and it's not true. Let's just be honest. It's not true. The trailer was removed from the internet, and people are like, oh my God, it's canceled. It's canceled. It's not. There was music licensing with the trailer that they needed to re-up, so the trailer was removed until that was fixed. So
all right, well,
you can only play Hallelujah so many times, Mike, before you gotta pay for it.
I mean, this was totally off my radar. I was obviously paying attention to other things this week, so all right, well, okay.
What, you weren't looking for Zack Snyder news every morning when you woke up to refresh?
Yeah, that's the hashtag I'm most concerned about right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. And lastly, I don't know how to feel about this franchise. I don't know how to feel about these movies. Fantastic Beasts 3. The release date has been delayed indefinitely. Right. Boom. That was number one. Immediately, like an hour later, Johnny Depp has essentially been asked to leave as Grindelwald in this movie, and he's been like, sure, that's fine. So, not to say here whatever the hearsay that's in this case that he's dealing with his wife, who is in the Aquaman franchise, ex-wife who's in the Aquaman franchise.
Yeah, Amber Heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the only thing I can think of here that's good out of this, Mike, is because we are essentially married to Harry Potter fans of the highest caliber.
Yes, very true.
Is that maybe they could bring back Colin Farrell as Grindelwald.
Yeah, that seems what a lot of the internet is recommending. They just bring back Colin Farrell and they just say he kind of just changed shape back again. I mean, I'm sure narratively there's a way that you could kind of spin it, but I mean, my wife is a very, very big Harry Potter fan, huge Harry Potter fan. But you know, she like a lot of the other diehard fans are having it out with J.K. Rowling right now with her stance on transgender people in the world. So you know, there's a chance that we may not have even been seeing this movie to begin with. So I don't really know what to make of all of this news, right? I guess they're just really lucky that they have Colin Farrell in their pocket, right?
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be? I mean, he's out there playing the Penguin in makeup and a bodysuit right now. So, I think. Go ahead.
Can you just imagine the bargaining position that Colin Farrell's in right now? Like, I am your only shot. I'm your only hope right now. But at the same time, though, Chris, Harry Potter, the original film franchise, has probably one of the most jarring recastings out there. Jarring in a way of it was a big character. The actor who played Dumbledore died, and they brought in a ringer that I would say knocked it out of the park as Dumbledore. You know, whether or not you agree with his interpretation of that. Did you throw your name into the goblet of fire, Harry? I mean, it doesn't bother me as much.
You said it calmly, Mike.
Yeah, but my wife brings it up all the time with me. But
that's not his fault. That's a director's fault. But go on.
Yeah, but I mean, they pulled it off fine there. So I mean, to be honest, if they wanted to, I mean, Grindelwald is such a unique looking character to where just hire another person and give him crazy gangly white hair and a weird scruffy white, like that's all that really was. Like he had like that slick back white hair. Like you could find somebody that kind of looks like him, you know.
Well, you have to have someone essentially who oozes charm but is inherently evil, and then you make him fit that look with bleached white hair and was it the thin mustache, whatever. So
yeah, all I have to say is I'm glad I'm not in a scenario where I care too much. I mean, I've never really got on board with these Fantastic Beasts movies to begin with. So if it's starting to fall apart, I'm just kind of like, all right, no, I don't really care.
Here's the thing: it won't fall apart. It will get made. All 5 of these sons of bitches are going to get made, whether we like it or not.
Really? You think so? I feel like now they're actually might be on the precipice of maybe not getting it going. I like what I'm saying. There's a good chance that they probably could keep this going and make more money out of it. But, you know, if the coronavirus doesn't really get in control like how they want it to, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in a couple months, you know, we see another news of just like, oh, this person dropped from the project. They are looking for a director or something like that.
This is too lucrative of a property for them to just give up on it or keep the people from coming back. I think they would have money. You make a theme park out of this, Mike. That's how much they are invested in these properties.
Well, Chris, the most obvious thing that's going to happen after Fantastic Beasts, whether it gets finished or not, is a streaming series. You know, HBO Max, I'm sure, is already in talks with somebody to write something attached to the Wizarding World that's, you know, 10 or 8 episodes a season, and they're going to crank out a bunch of them, and they're going to get so many HBO Max subscriptions out of it. That's going to be the next big thing. Like, Fantastic Beasts is almost old news at this point in time.
Well, here's the thing, and the title's goddamn horrible, right? How many Fantastic Beasts were in that last one? None of them. But the video game, I know, like we're on the fence because you're like, we don't want to support, you know, J.K. Rowling, but again, that game looks awesome, and I believe in the people who are making it. Like that is the next, I think, big thing with them. And I'm very much, you know, not a Potterhead, if you will, but I'm thoroughly looking forward to that game. I'm like, it looks so fun and so good.
We need a couple philosophy majors and some ethicists to kind of come together and come up with an equation of just like how many dollars does a person need to donate to a positive trans community to negate the amount of money that J.K. Rowling might get from this video game, right? Like, I don't even know if that answer exists. I don't even know if that's the right way to look at it, but, you know, that's where my dumb brain goes.
Is she even getting residuals from a video game, or is that going straight to Warner Brothers? That's my hope. But
yeah, all I'm asking is there a way where I can spend more money to give her no money, right?
Yeah, like, exactly.
And is there a world where you can pay twice as much money for this game and she doesn't get any money at all? I don't know, but
that's not something I want to go. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's dangerous. But yes, I wholeheartedly support it. So, yeah. Well, that's our show for this week, Mike. Short and sweet. Again, if you guys had a chance to watch New Mutants this week, go check out our review. That's where we spent a lot of our time talking about that this week. But if people know what you're up to, where they can see your wonderful drawing for the Great British Bake Off, which I thoroughly enjoyed because I get it. I get every bit of that joke.
Yeah, why does Paul Hollywood got to be so gosh dang picky?
Well, my favorite part is they call them gherkins all over this thing. And like, what's a gherkin? I'm like, well, it's obviously a sweet
and they're
pickle.
English.
Yeah.
They're English. How do they not like baked beans? It's like in your breakfast. It'd be like me saying like I don't like eggs and bacon and stuff. Like I don't know. It's just we have a really close friend who is English as well, and we asked him like, are baked beans divisive over there across the pond? He's just like, no, I don't understand what their problem is with beans. So
is there a certain type of British baked bean that we're not getting here from our Campbell's canned baked beans we had in elementary school growing up?
I don't know, but there was 3 people on that episode. The contestant David made some sort of like disgusting remark towards baked beans, and Prue and Paul didn't like baked beans. So I'm just like, but Prue, at least Prue didn't like request them to be removed like Paul did with the gherkin. Like, oh, can you make one without the gherkin? It's like, come on, Paul.
You are judging a baking show. You better eat it, not judge it against it.
You eat that damn pickle, Paul.
Yeah. It's just relish, you son of a... No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I agree. We get worked up about the show. I'm glad we had that about us.
But I made a little drawing to poke fun at Paul Hollywood. So if you want to see that, just head on over to Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, people want to catch up with you, see what lovely snacks you're eating this holiday season. Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter, Valdan, Valdan, or Instagram, Valdan87. We talked about this, I didn't bring it up on the show, but I got one of those Harmony remotes to control all my devices, one to rule them all kind of situation going on here. So I'm going to see if I can make this all work together and just use one remote.
Can it remote start your car? I feel like it should be able to remote start your car.
With a hybrid, I cannot remote start my car.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't let you do that because they're like, you will literally drain the battery. So they don't let you do that. So I get what you're saying, though. We can probably work something out. You can also, I think it said Instagram Valdan87. People want to know more about our show, where they can listen to our reviews. Leave us a review because that helps us the most. Just leaving us a little review. You can even do it from inside the app you're listening to. That would be awesome. Where can they do those at?
Oh, all you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our awesome show notes. So if you want to see all the stuff that we talked about on this week's show, if you want to see that trailer for Lego Star Wars on Disney Plus, you can head on over to our show notes and get that. Special shout out to Chris, who we dealt with some technical difficulties at the top of the show. And if you didn't notice, it's because he's an amazing editor and we found a way to clip through all those weird problems that we were having with Skype earlier. So shout out, high five to Chris. But you can find this perfectly edited episode over at Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you'd like to listen to find podcasts like ours. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Please reach out if you had a chance to see New Mutants. We want to know what you thought because I don't think a lot of people have seen this movie yet, and you might not have a chance to watch it till next week, but if you've seen it, please reach out and let us know what you thought about it. And we love our super fans of this show, and if you want to be a super fan of Superhero Slate, I don't have to remind you to vote anymore unless you live in Georgia. They're going to have a runoff election in January, so you will still need to vote over there, so be prepared. But if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, keep wearing your mask until we kick this pandemic's ass, and we'll see everybody next week.
We'll see you there. Thanks a lot.
All right, bye everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Twice.
They let you in the back. All right, Chris. Well, I'll let you in the back anytime.
I'm not putting that in the outro or the intro.
I set you up for it, man.
You did.